Okay, hey guys, Bo here, Cranky Canine. Gonna talk about the role of physical affection in dog training in this video. All right, so I think this is the best place to start is with fear and anxiety. My gorilla analogy. A lot of the dogs that come here have confidence problems. They shake. They are just riddled with fear and anxiety. They're an animal living in human society, and they don't understand the human society is the problem. And maybe there's torment, torture, bad past, bad puppyhood, whatever it is. Okay. So I think the best spot to start is with the gorilla analogy. So we go on vacation. We're heading off to Africa. We're going to do an African safari. Okay. We get there. We get on the Jeep and we're checking out the giraffes and the zebras and the tigers, lions. Well, there wouldn't be tigers, lions. And then our tour guide says, hey guys, you're in luck. The gorillas are in this area. We get a chance to see the gorillas today. So off we go traipsing through the jungle. We're on our way to see the gorillas. I see a waterfall over here that's real pretty. I stop to take pictures. And it's one of those like horror movies where the guide forgets you exist and leaves you. And so now here I am. I turn around from taking my pictures and I've lost the group. So I head on down the trail, no big deal. I'm sure I'll catch up. Well, I don't catch up. They must have went on quite a ways, but what I did find were the gorillas, okay? So now it's me and a bunch of gorillas, no tour guide, no other people. I'm pretty sure this is the day that I die, okay? Scared to death, just me in Africa with these gorillas, okay? Now there's 3 gorillas. The first gorilla, he doesn't even see me. He hasn't noticed that I'm there, okay? Which is somewhat comforting, but he's off doing his own thing, okay? The second gorilla, he notices me, makes some kind of weird grunting noise, tosses me 2 bananas, and then moves about playing with his kids and eating the grass and whatever it is that he wants to do. And then you have the third gorilla. The third gorilla thinks I'm cute. He wants to pet me. He says, come on, come over here. You're gonna be just fine. Come on. Scratch you on the head, pet you, okay? That's a big fat no, all right? I don't wanna be pet by a 1,000-pound gorilla. I've seen that National Geographic video already. He's gonna end up snapping my neck and dragging me around by my feet. So that's a no. You stay over there, gorilla, I'll stay over here, okay? So who am I the most comfortable with? Gorilla 1, Gorilla 2, Gorilla 3. Well, we've already chatted. It's obviously not Gorilla 3. He wants to pet me. Come on over here. Come here, cutie, I'll scratch you, okay? The first gorilla who doesn't see me yet, I'm not so sure about him either. He doesn't see me, but what about when he does? What about when he does see me? What's gonna happen then? Is he gonna get aggressive and try to kill me and snap my back? Or is he gonna be like gorilla number 3 who wants to pet me because he thinks I'm cute, okay? Number 2, that gorilla is the one that makes me very comfortable. He noticed that I existed. He even kind of spoke to me, tossed me 2 bananas, which says he's worried about my sustenance. He can tell that I'm off in a faraway land and I'm obviously not from here. Maybe I'd have a hard time finding food. So he tosses me a few bananas and then he goes about his day, no big deal, playing with his kid, all right? I might even ask that guy for a few more bananas in a few hours if I get stuck in this situation. But the other 2, I don't want them to come anywhere near me. I don't want anything to do with them. Do you see what I mean? So when you see a fearful dog, an anxious dog, nervous, shaking, scared, whale eye, like this, do not touch them. They do not need your affection in order to feel better, okay? That is probably the biggest rookie mistake out there, is going to a dog who is fearful, anxious, shaking, nervous, whale eye, and assuming that touching them is gonna make them feel better. It makes them feel much, much worse, okay? In the same way that the gorilla that wants to pet me because he thinks I'm cute. No thanks. Am I scared? Yes, definitely. I'm in the jungle. Please don't touch me, okay? Same kind of deal. Now, if you gave the dog food, if you saw a little fearful dog and you gave the dog food, that would be a good thing. Most of them won't take it. Most of them are terrified. And so what's the right thing to do with a dog who's terrified? Be more like gorilla number 2. Don't completely ignore the dog. Make a tiny little bitty gesture that isn't too forward and is more inward, like a, oh, and then throw some food. I see you, here's some food, but don't move towards them, don't reach at them, do not touch them, okay? If you had a leash on, you can grab that leash and you can move away and they will follow, and that's one of the best ways to get on a dog's good side. Get them to follow you, and then at the end of the follow, give them food. Motion away from the dog and then food. Why motion away? Because motion away from the dog is not scary. Nobody's scared of the gorilla that's leaving, who's moving away from them. Okay, it's the one that's coming toward you that frightens you. All right? So make sure that you get your body language right there, and make sure that you're not touching fearful dogs or scratching them or thinking that they need your affection, because they absolutely don't. That affection is going to make it worse. Okay? Now, why does it make it worse? The body's natural reaction to touch. Think about this, guys. You think that the affection is going to help them. But the reality is that touch of all different types is usually not warranted. It's usually not something that another creature wants. If you do want affection from someone, you consciously consider that and think about that and then accept it for a certain reason, okay? But if I'm at Aldi shopping and someone comes up behind me and touches me, what's my initial reaction? Oh, it's a startle, a negative reaction. Until finally I go, oh, it's just Chris. Hey, Chris, how are you, man? It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Now we're shaking hands, consciously deciding to shake hands. But even then, we don't hug, okay? We don't get on the ground and cuddle, all right? And so there are laws made around touching, okay? When humans greet each other, I think that's why the handshake was invented, is to avoid touch that makes us feel weird, okay? Now think about the animal kingdom. Squirrels, rabbits, snakes, fish, birds. You've never pet any of them unless you found it as a baby and domesticated it, which is a human invention, domestication. Naturally, they don't want you to touch them. If we find a dog, a feral dog out in the country somewhere that hasn't been around people, it's been raised in the wild, it doesn't want you to touch it either. It'll bite you if you try to touch it, all right? Nature's natural reaction to touch is a negative one, okay? And only once trust is built, then you can touch. That's the same way with human relationships, okay? And it's the same way with dog relationships. The only reason your dog wants you to touch it is because it loves you and it wants to make sure that your relationship is solid, okay? Which is the same reason why humans touch each other. But not all humans touch each other. So the moral of the story there is, you see a dog out in public, you go to a dog parade, you go to the dog park, anywhere, do not touch other people's dogs. They don't know you. You're not part of their family. You're not in a relationship with them like their owner is. Do not touch them, okay? They're not yours. And they don't need to be touched. Most of them don't want to be touched. Some of them are floozies. They'll just take touched by anybody. But majority of them don't want to be touched in the same way that we don't want strangers touching our children or touching our wife or touching anyone, you know, doesn't want to be touched unless they want to be touched. So be very, very cautious of this. And I do understand that the reason why we get dogs is to pet them, but also understand that there is a certain etiquette that has to be followed, or else you're just being rude and at times possibly physically assaulting them, okay? Now, smothering. This is another thing that happens with our own pets. So the body's natural reaction to touch, the fear and anxiety gorilla analogy, this doesn't always come into the case. These are more for dogs that you're meeting on the street, or if you're a dog trainer, dogs that you're trying to rehabilitate when it comes to the gorilla analogy. Smothering, though, this is what happens in your own home. Smothering, all right? This is something that you see in relationships, human relationships, okay? Let's imagine, well, that a guy gets married, okay? He gets married to his wife, and he's so happy that he's moving in with this beautiful woman, and he's so attracted by her, and he chases her around the house, and he's always squeezing on her and pinching her. Oh my gosh, you're so attractive. I think you're gorgeous. And in the first few months, I mean, she really feels the same way. You know, they have their honeymoon phase. Everything's beautiful. 6 months down the road, he's still all over her. Every single day, 24/7, he just cannot stop touching her and squeezing her and chasing her around and flirting with her. And she's kind of thinking, hey man, it's been 6 months, like I love you too, but give it a break, will you? Give me a little space here. Sometimes I just want to watch TV and have a little personal space of my own, all right? But he doesn't get the hint. And he thinks that the more he squeezes and touches and gives love and kisses, the more she's gonna like him. So whenever she starts to ask for space, he gives the opposite, smothers her even more, thinking that's gonna help. Okay? Until finally, he comes home from work and he's looking forward to that nice, lovely hug and kiss in the front of the door. And all she can think is, God, I hope he doesn't come over here and do that thing again. And I think a lot of us have felt this way in certain relationships, whether you're a man or a woman. And you do see this in the dogs sometimes. You don't see it in young dogs as much. The young ones seem to be all over you. They just want to make out constantly. But your old ones, your 10-year-old, your 11-year-old, your 12-year-old dog that just lays over there and you go, come here, honey. And she goes, nah, I'll just stay over here. You've smothered that dog. And she's like, we've been there and done that. You've touched me, scratched me. And then most likely that little dog right there that you've got that's 12 years old, the only really time she ever wants affection is at 5 o'clock when it's time to eat. She'll come up and she'll be super sweet. Hey honey, I love you. And you go, oh my God, wait a minute. It's 5 o'clock. You just want food. And she's just coming over here and giving you that because she wants you to feed her. And the reality is that she doesn't even really want that affection anymore. She'd rather just keep laying over there. So when you call her, it's a no-go. She says, nah, stay over here. You done scratched my butt millions of times. We're good. So be leery of smothering. It is a thing that can happen, okay? Now, am I telling you not to pet the dog? No, I am not, all right? But I am trying to get you to be conscious of when they ask for it versus when they need personal space. And then I also want you to realize that it's really not as much of a reward as you think it is. So in dog training, which is the topic here, the role of physical affection in dog training, the old adage of call the dog and then give him a pat on the head is terrible advice. First of all, who wants to be patted on the head? It's not affectionate at all. At least go for the ear scratch, geez. But the reality is they're not coming to you because they want you to touch them, because they want affection, okay? When you are training, if you get rid of the affection and you start using the actual reward, the reason why they want to be with us, food, you're going to increase your result, okay? So what do I mean by that? For thousands of years, we have evolved together, dogs and humans. We are a mutually beneficial relationship, symbiotic relationship, okay? We hang out with them because we need them to do certain jobs for us, and we do it for companionship. But they hang with us for the same companionship as well as food. We are their providers, okay? We give them food, we give them shelter, we give them survival, and in return, they give us relationship. So when your dog comes up at 5 o'clock and gives you that love and affection, she knows my part of the deal is to give you relationship, and then your part of the deal is to feed me in turn. Does that make sense? So if you're training dogs, skip the affection. That's what you want out of the deal, okay? Move right to the food. And the food is gonna increase your reliability of all of your commands, all of your work that you're doing, because you're tapping in to the instinctual reason why dogs hang out with humans, okay? Now, if we want to accelerate that, we'll add motion to our food, okay? Adding motion to the food reward increases that result much, much greater, and also gives you a cue that you can use even if you don't have food on you, which is beautiful. So what do I mean by that is we move, the dog follows, then we pay. We move, the dog follows, then we pay. You can teach that with heeling, recalls, anything, okay? But you'll notice that that's gonna be a very common thing that we're gonna consistently be covering in our course is motion and then food, okay? Now, why motion and then food? Prey drive, right? That's the best way that we can mimic the squirrel. The squirrel is the most attractive thing on the planet to a dog. There's nothing on the planet more attractive than a squirrel to a dog. And so we want to mimic the squirrel so that we can be just as attractive as the squirrel, okay? So what I do is I move away from the dog, just like a squirrel would. Squirrels never move toward the predator, always away from the predator, okay? We move away from them, and then when they chase us or they get to us, we give food. Mimic the squirrel, okay? Playing hard to get. This is the other thing, okay? This is another big part of our program here, playing hard to get, okay? And what do I mean by that? Well, our shaping technique that you're gonna cover in your first lesson is one where we ignore the dog, and then when they sit or do a down, some kind of a cute thing, all of a sudden we see them and we give them food. So we create a deficit of attention, and then they sit and we go, oh, look how cute that was, and then we give them food, okay? That's kind of what I mean by playing hard to get, is that you don't even see them, you're ignoring them until they do the perfect thing, and then, oh, they appear. So in that way, you're not just using food and motion, you're also using attention as your reward, okay? So more on that whenever we get to our shaping video. But playing hard to get, when you decrease the amount of affection in your relationship and you, instead of using affection, you use food, that's one of the easier ways to play hard to get. If you never move toward them and you always move away from them, meaning that if they're laying over there nicely, you just let them sleep, and then when they get up and come to you, that's whenever you give them food, affection, or some kind of reward. That's another way of playing hard to get, okay? And so just reducing a lot of the touching, a lot of the petting, and a lot of the affection is definitely a way to play hard to get. And so I still pet my dogs, you guys. I think that it is a necessary part of your relationship is to give affection. But I also understand the science, and I also know what I'm doing. So I'm careful about when to do it, how to do it, and how often to do it, okay? And I also play hard to get whenever I need something from them, okay? So that's one of the reasons why I use shaping. Hit me up with questions and comments underneath if you guys have them. I'd love to hear them, and I'd love to get into this kind of chat with you if you guys want to move down this rabbit hole even further, okay? Alrighty.